Welcome, everyone, to People on Dating. I'm your host, Will Mraz. And for those of you who are tuning in for the first time, this podcast is about the ups and downs of dating and how to navigate through it. Today, my guest is Iseman, and we just practiced this like 5 seconds ago. She is the founder of Passport to Pleasure and has been a speaker, community organizer, and non-monogamy educator and practitioner since 2016. She is a sought-after podcast guest, has been featured subject matter expert in the New York Times, Cosmopolitan, Well+Good, Romper, PureWow, and Yahoo, among others, and is a contributing writer for Sexual Health magazine. First of all, Ali, thank you so much for being on my little show of People on Dating. How are you?
I'm so well. No, like I said to you, thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about some of my favorite subjects. So I'm
And
excited
this
to
is a
dive
good
in.
one. Yeah, this is a good one. Consensual non-monogamy relationship, which is a good first time I ever talked about that. But before
Ooh.
we get into the subject, tell us a little about yourself. What was that journey like for you to get here to today?
Oh man. Well, in one word, messy. So the way I like to say it is I do what I do because I've learned everything the hard way so that you don't.
Uh,
There's a lot of really big, really common misconceptions about what, ethical or consensual non-monogamy really means when it comes to
mhm.
dating, love, relationships, building a life, all that fun stuff. And
Yeah.
so I really am super passionate about making sure that people don't have to go through what I went through to get here, that people can really enjoy the process of what it means to open up their relationship, whether that means, they're opening up their relationship to include other people, or they just want to, branch out, maybe explore play parties, or they just want to open up more authentically to each other about their curiosities. I want to make sure that they have the tools to open up without breaking up, as I like to
Mm,
say.
okay, no, that definitely makes a lot of sense. So, for my audience that might not know, even though I know, what is consensual non-monogamy mean?
Yeah, let's start at the beginning.
Okay.
Exactly. So, yes, so most people are familiar with the term monogamy.
Yes.
Monogamy used to mean one sexual or romantic partner for life. It
Right.
now means one at a time. So
Okay.
most people don't just have one partner that they meet when they're, 15 or what have you, and then that's it for life. It's monogamy is now like one partner at a time. So
Okay.
consensual non-monogamy is the key word, consensual. It's having multiple romantic and or sexual partners simultaneously with the full knowledge and informed consent of everyone involved. So that can look a number of different ways. People may have heard the term polyamory. That's one
Mhm.
version of consensual non-monogamy. There's also open relationship where you have one primary partner and then you both either, date other people together or separately. And there's a bunch of other frameworks underneath the big umbrella known as consensual or ethical non-monogamy is another way to say it as well.
Yeah,
ENM or CNM.
and it seems more, especially in 2025, it seems that's more prevalent now, right? I'm seeing, again, I'm going by what I've read, and what I see online, and it's mostly women because they, especially like, someone like you that's very attractive, are going to have the options compared to a guy unless he looks like Tom Brady, a Super Bowl looking quarterback. But is how do you get to that part when it's consensual? Because someone could get jealous, especially, I mean, if it's a attractive woman like yourself, and you have, let's say, an average looking guy that's maybe a 6 or 7. Come on, Ali. It's gonna be tough. You're gonna have all the attention. That guy might not get as much attention as you. So how does the consensual part come in? I know you say
Well,
have a
there's
conversation. Yeah, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's a lot of different things in what you just asked. So I'm gonna
Yeah,
try and kind of pull out the different
sure,
components
sure.
there. So first and foremost, there's all kinds of people who are interested in and practicing some version of consensual non-monogamy. There's
Yeah.
not like one look or one type or anything like that. It's more prevalent in the mainstream language. We're seeing more coverage in media, et cetera, but
Mhm.
that does not actually indicate that there is somehow more of it going on. This is
Okay.
not a minority experience. So if we look at statistically, I'm a numbers gal, I'm a nerd for numbers. So if we look at statistics, currently 3 to 7% of the population is currently practicing some version of consensual non-monogamy. To
Okay.
give you a perspective, I always flip these numbers, so forgive me if I've inverted them, but there are, I believe it's 2% of the world's population is either vegan or Jewish, and then 1% is the other one. So there are
Gotcha.
far more people practicing consensual non-monogamy than are, I'm Jewish myself and I'm
Okay.
vegan myself. So this is a much larger portion. And that's just who's currently practicing it. Of the whole population, 25% have at some point in their life, in their relationship, dating life, tried some version of consensual non-monogamy. And 30% of the population report being interested in trying it. So this is
Okay.
not a small number, right? And that's why I like to really stress that it's not like you have to be a certain way or look a certain way, or you can't be jealous to do this. I deal with jealousy. Jealousy is a
Sure.
perfectly normal experience. It's like saying, like, being jealous is bad. I don't want to be jealous. Replace jealous with, oh, I don't want to feel excited. I don't want to feel nervous. It's just another emotional experience. It's less about whether or not you have that experience and more about what do you do with it. It's just data. It's just information. It's letting you know something about yourself, about the relationship, and then what are you going to do with that information? So
Okay.
all that to say, you don't have to like be someone who doesn't experience jealousy. The concept of, I'm not a jealous person. Jealousy isn't a personality trait. It's just an
Right.
emotional experience. Most people will experience some version of it at some point, and it's totally okay. So all that to say, yeah, and there's people who have different kinds of experiences within this landscape too. If you jump in to a we don't see as many examples of non-monogamous relationships in, the public landscape as we do our idealized version of monogamy, but that doesn't mean they're not out there. So we don't have the example though, so we don't necessarily have the tools to actually explore it effectively. So making
Right.
sure that you are learning as much as you can before you're diving in. Think of it like swimming, right? Maybe you decide you want to go swimming. You don't just dive into that, beautiful ocean you see behind you. You get some lessons, you go to the local pool. There's, a process to make sure you don't drown. So same can be
Gotcha.
said with exploring something new like this.
Okay, so you're in a relationship or someone's in a relationship for a couple of months, couple of years. I won't even know the timeline to begin a conversation like that. So obviously I'll defer to you. But okay, so if you're in a relationship and someone in the couple and the partner says, I want to try something new. I want to see other people. How is that conversation brought up? And how is it the topic even talked about?
So I always like to encourage people, if you're hearing this conversation or you've read an article or someone said something that makes you go like, oh, consensual non-monogamy, or oh, polyamory, or oh, an open relationship. That sounds interesting. Okay. That doesn't mean now we go talk to our partner. Hey, I want to do this thing. You've just heard about something. Now it's time to learn more about it. And most importantly, the conversation with yourself first. Why is it interesting?
Mm,
Why is it attractive to you? That is so important before you have any conversation with your partner to really understand what that motivation is. Because if the motivation is like, hey, I want to spice up our sex life, great. Maybe the conversation is, hey, I'm curious to go check out a play party together. We'll talk about boundaries. We only play together. It doesn't mean it's necessarily that. So understanding that why, again, is super, super, super important because that's going to inform the conversation you may potentially have with your partner.
right.
If it's to, save our relationship, I really, really recommend getting some professional experienced support to really walk you through that because this is not a band-aid. No relationship structure, monogamous or non-monogamous, is going to fix anything. Any communication issues or, libido incompatibilities or what have you that are existing in your current relationship are not
Mhm.
going to get better by adding more partners. It's just going to
Mm.
accentuate whatever's already going on. So it can be an avenue to explore and, learn more and deepen your relationship, but you've really got to make sure that you have that foundation in place. And now to get to your direct
Sure,
question,
sure, sure.
say you've got you understand your why, you know where it's coming from, you're not trying to fix anything, you've educated yourself how to actually bring it up. My big suggestion is from curiosity. So the conversation isn't actually, hey, I want to do this thing. Do you want to do this thing? The conversation is actually, hey, I've heard this term, consensual non-monogamy, or I read this article, or I saw this trailer for this movie, or what have you. Have you ever heard this term? What do you think about it? The first conversation is really getting a feel for where your partner is at when it comes to, have they even heard about this? Do they know what it is? Do they have any feelings about it? And a lot of people, as to your point, there's more and more, public discourse about this topic. So
Yeah.
people think they might know what it is because of, like I said, a lot of unfortunate like myths and misconceptions that are out there. So you may be met with a lot of fear and an immediate shutdown. And that's why I say coming from curiosity. There's this thing I've heard about. I'm like, I'm not really sure. I'd love, here's an article I read. I'd love for us both to read it and just talk about it. The conversation initially out the gate is not about opening up your relationship. It's about understanding where your partner is at and being curious together about what it could mean for both of you.
Okay, no, that's very interesting. So in the topic, right, consensual non-monogamy, who's more open to, in your studies and your, in your everyday life, who's more open to trying the non-monogamy? Is it more women, more men? Is it about equal? What's your take on it?
So I think that there's a big assumption that it's men, right? Because men are seen, at least we're socialized to believe that men are more sexual, and we're also told that non-monogamy is mostly about sex.
Right.
Neither of those things is accurate,
Mm,
statistically speaking.
yeah.
And it's actually, numbers wise, mostly women in a partnered heterosexual relationship that are
Right.
more curious initially about the idea. And I also want to say, while we're on the topic of like, who's interested in more, how do we bring this up? If you're the partner who's interested and you're at that stage where you want to bring this up to your partner, know that this journey is going to proceed at the pace of their comfort, not your desire. The more reluctant partner sets the pace.
Mm,
Super important.
okay. Okay. See, because I'm thinking, yeah, I can understand women being more, curious about it. Is it more because in this day and age, women just want the variety of a different man, depending on their relationship they currently are? Maybe they don't get enough physical contact because maybe the husband or the boyfriend's working too much, whatever. And then does the woman want to explore some of her needs, some of her fantasies? Is that why they might bring it up a little bit more?
There,
Does that
we could
make
do a whole episode just on
Yeah, I'm pretty
that.
sure. I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure.
there's a lot of factors, right? So, it can be sexually driven, it can be emotionally driven, it can be both, it can just be, novelty for life, not even just specifically sexual.
Right.
But
Ah, okay. Okay.
statistically speaking, in long-term relationships, heterosexual, long-term relationship, non-term, long-term relationships, women actually grow, for lack of a better term, bored sooner than men. It's a
Right.
total misnomer that it's the other way around. And there's a lot of, not hormonal, there's a lot of physiological reasons around that. And this can be a safe and secure way to explore, because when you're building a consensually non-monogamous dynamic, boundaries are a huge part of that. This is another big myth and misconception that, okay, we have an open relationship, so like anything goes. Like, absolutely not. You are negotiating where you're at right now. Those boundaries may shift and change over time, and you may
Right.
cross them once in a while. That is also something, like jealousy. Just because someone makes a mistake doesn't mean you have to end everything and shut it down. What can we learn here? Obviously, if it's the same mistake over and over and there's a necessary change and they're not making it, that's a behavioral thing, and
Right.
get some support on that. But all that to say, like, this is something that can provide that novelty if explored intentionally and with the right frameworks.
Okay. Because I think it could be a touchy subject, but I guess it depends on the partners. Obviously, if both are looking to explore, as a man, that'll be tough for me to, I guess if it's just a girlfriend and this is one of those this is a casual type of thing, maybe I'll be more open to having other partners, same as the girl. But if it's the woman's mindset to try something new, but her partner is Nah, I like it the way it is, but like you said, if women get bored, pretty much that's like a, a end of the relationship, in my opinion. Because if a woman's bored okay, no, go ahead. I can see.
Necessarily. This is
Okay,
where it gets really, really juicy, right? Because we
okay,
have this idea that we have a very all or nothing language around love and
a hundred
relationship,
percent, yeah,
dating. And it's such a shame because we miss so many beautiful opportunities, like intimacy, vulnerability lives in that sort of in between, that like, I don't know, and I'm uncomfortable and I want to ride this out with you.
yeah,
So let's have I'll use an anonymous client situation that comes
sure,
up
sure,
frequently. Is there'll be, maybe there's a specific kink or activity, if it is like a sexual exploration thing that one of the partners is really interested in, and it's really just a no-fly zone for the other one, not because they don't love their partner, not because they're not attracted, it's just not something they're comfortable with, interested in, what have you. Why is there this need that like that person needs to pressure themselves to be that explorate, like make themselves uncomfortable for their partner's curiosity, when they
right,
can find a kink partner that is actually excited and interested in that serves just that placement in their life, and they negotiate that dynamic and it's just about that, and they still have this beautiful relationship with their, if that's their primary partner, without that pressure. It's kind of the
right,
same conversation around a hot topic these days, right? A dead bedroom or a sexless marriage.
mhm,
If one person is no longer interested in sex and all the exploration and making sure that, everyone's doing their part in the relationship, why is there pressure that one person has to have sex or the other one doesn't have to, just because they're no longer on the same page anymore? If everything else in the relationship is still really supporting their goals, their boundaries, everything else, sex is just one component of a relationship. If you talk about it that way and you take out the emotionality, like, it's not so I'm trying to wrap up because I'm like, again, we could do a whole episode just on this component. Feelings, emotions that come up during, physical intimacy are perfectly normal and healthy. We don't
right,
control our emotions, we control our actions. That's what the boundaries and agreements are when you're negotiating any kind of relationship. The problem when you have one socially accepted, sort of default relationship is that no one's negotiating these boundaries. So I
right,
see so many monogamous couples where one person has a completely different definition of what cheating is, for example. And so they've been doing something that they think is within the bounds. And then their partner finds out, and to them, it's totally crossing a line, but they
right.
never talked about the line. The whole point of this, again, whether you're monogamous, non-monogamous, is we need to be having these conversations. What are your needs? What are your curiosities? What are your interests? What are you hoping to like grow into in this relationship? That will change over time. We need to be having these conversations on a regular basis. That's the joy and the play available in relationship, in love, in what I call your relation trip.
Yeah, I just think too that and speaking of from a man's point of view, I would be even like years and years ago. I remember I would be afraid to uh touch on the subject because I'm like, oh, how's she's gonna
Yeah.
act, or because I want to do it this way in the bedroom. But and it's like you said, I think it's so important about communication being open because I think with some of us, maybe for some, speaking for myself, maybe it's like, would I be offensive if I suggest I want to have
Yeah.
sex this way? Or if I say, hey, I never thought about it personally, like, I want to bring another girl to the bedroom. I know, again, I love that you say it's all about communication and just having just
Yeah.
pretty much, let's say, the guts, for lack of a better word, to bring it up. So for you, Ali, how did you come up with what was it about the subject that intrigued you about it, that you wrote about it and you talk about it? What was it? What intrigued you about this particular subject?
Well, for me, I mean, I'll try and make this as succinct as possible. It's a bit of my,
Okay.
my origin story, I guess, in
Yeah, yeah,
regards
yeah.
to this.
Like you said, we might have to do
But
a part two and a part three.
yeah. So for the better part of, my adult dating life, I was what I call a serial monogamist. So like we
Mhm.
talked about at the beginning,
Sure.
monogamy used to mean one partner forever. Now it just means one at a time. So I would have a relationship with one person for about the same amount of time. And then I'd be single for about the same amount of time. And then boom, right into the next one. And it was kind of this, pattern.
Mhm.
And I'm a nerd. So when I notice a pattern, I'm like, ooh, let's start messing with some variables. Let's see what happens. And there was something I had noticed about myself that seemed to be a little bit different from other folks. I thought what I was experiencing was jealousy, which everyone seemed to think was a very negative, unpleasant, bad, thing. But for me, it felt really good when I would think about my partner's, previous relationships. I liked when they told me if they found somebody in the room attractive. Like these were fun and exciting because I liked fantasizing about, other people. And that's eventually like how kind of broached the topic was, you know, I want to explore, and we would land on like, okay, we can have a threesome with another woman. I was only dating men at this time.
Sure, sure.
And so it was a little maybe easier as a woman because that's a seems a safer bet for men.
Yeah.
Again, a whole other episode we could talk about why that is.
Yeah.
But that sort of experience is known as compersion, where the joy or pleasure your partner experiences, or excuse me, compersion is when you experience joy or pleasure from your partner experiencing joy or pleasure with someone else.
Ah,
So their
okay.
joy or pleasure that has nothing to do with you still brings you joy and pleasure. So I thought that was jealousy, and I'm like, this feels great. And so that was again kind of my first clue there was something different. And then, again, a few relationships, agreed to a threesome, never happened. And then what ultimately became my last monogamous relationship, we tried to open up because this person was on the road a lot. Their job, took them traveling a lot. And I would join him when I could, but I wasn't always available. And so one of the times he was going to be out of town, I said, I really would love, if you're at the hotel bar and you strike up a conversation, someone's cute, take a consensual photo, and send it to me and have a great night and just, tell me what happens afterwards.
Right.
And so he did end up at one point meeting somebody. They sent me a picture, super cute. I was so excited, could not wait to hear more. Turns out they just ended up staying up all night talking. Great. Like loved it, had a great time, really enjoyed it, really got to feel like, oh, this feels good. And so another time he was out of town, and I had a friend of mine that was going to be coming into town where I was, and we had known each other for 6, 7 years at this point. We had, a sexual history, but it was very, very much just friends.
Right.
We were really clear on that. So I was like, to me, this was a perfect opportunity. I'll, play with my friends, no risk, no risk of like anything more. My partner gave me what he called his green light. My friend and I had a wonderful, fun night together. I learned that his previous relationship had been an open relationship, which I never knew. It was this beautiful bonding moment with me and my friend. And my partner was very much a part of that experience for me the whole time. Like I felt so connected. It opened up something that I call expansive love inside
Yeah.
of me. I thought I had been, the most full, loving partner I could be. This opened up a whole new level. I was so excited to talk to him. We'd agreed that I would call afterwards. And so I gave him a call and I was just gushing and just so appreciative and so happy and so excited to share with him. And so I said, what do you want to hear? And it was just dead silence. And then all he said was, I can't believe you did it. And that
Oh,
was
wow.
basically the beginning of an implosion. And there were other issues in
Sure,
that
sure.
relationship as well. But I learned a lot, and I learned key component. This is real for me. I need to explore this. I don't know what it is. And so I need to explore this on my own so that I don't create any more other, emotional casualties, as I call it, in the
Yeah.
process. And so
Yeah.
that began what was, what has now become a 10-year exploration, leading to me becoming a certified relationship coach, specializing in this area, becoming a community leader, an event host, organizer in the play party space. Like it's been a continuous growth journey. And it's one of my favorite things to talk about because, again, even if you're monogamous, these skills apply to your relationship. Learning how to have these potentially uncomfortable conversations about very normal, healthy human desires
Yeah.
is so important. But we're not taught these skills. We're not given the tools and skills we need to build the relationships that we want and deserve. And it's not okay.
Yeah, no, no, and I'm glad you're here. I mean, first of all, I want to thank you so much for being on People on Dating. I could probably talk to you for another hour and a half, not
I
even an
know.
hour and a half, another 2 hours. But before I let you go, anything else you want to promote? Anything else you want to talk about?
Yeah, like I said, I'm here because I want to make sure everyone has the tools they need. So I have something very specific. I'm hoping your audience will really get a lot out of. There's something I created called, I call it my swipe stopper system. So for those of us that are on the apps that are looking to date, whether we're single and curious about non-monogamous dating, or we're in a couple and we're looking to explore, maybe meet a third person, or maybe you're just looking for a kink partner who shares some of your interests. I've
Mm.
created a 3-step system that will help you create the perfect dating app profile that will attract exactly what you're looking for. It gives you everything from like prompts to photo suggestions, everything. And it really, really simplifies it. So like I said, whether you fall into any of those three categories, this is a great tool to help you build that foolproof dating app profile to meet exactly who you're wanting to meet.
No,
And so you can
definitely.
find that if you go to it's swipestopper.com, and we'll include the link hopefully in the show
Yeah,
notes as
it'll be in
well.
the
Send
show
you
notes.
that
Yeah, of
directly.
course. Yeah, no, definitely. Anything else you want to talk about?
Yeah, you can find me if you're curious to learn more about anything we've talked about today or deep dive. I'm on all the platforms. I create a ton of content because, again, I want you to have this information. You can find me at my website, which is passport2pleasure.com, and that's the number two.
Mhm.
And that's the handle on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Substack. You can also find me personally on Instagram at Ali Iseman as the handle as well. But passport2pleasure on all the platforms will get you to me as well.
Yeah, I'll definitely put that on the show notes. Well, again, Ali, first of all, thank you so much for being on the People on Dating show. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule. I really, really appreciate it.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Such a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Yeah, my pleasure. Bye bye.